What is going on, you beautiful, lovely, marvelous people? Welcome back to the channel. Hope that you're having a great day, great morning, great afternoon, great night, whatever time it may be. I hope it's doing, and I hope it's going pretty good. Today we are listening to Roy Harper with his song "The Game" off of the album HQ, which was released in 1975. I have had this song on my list of songs to get to for, honestly, at this point, probably at least a year. Like, it has been a long time. You guys have asked for it every once in a while. I've seen it pop up in the comments. I'm like, I got it. It's just, it takes a long time, right? And we're doing this song for Long Song Saturday. Last week we had done all of Pictures at an Exhibition by ELP, and I didn't want to jump into another like huge song, so I figured a 13-minute song would like kind of satisfy Long Song Saturday while not being overly too much, because that Pictures, that was a lot of editing and all that stuff. So this is kind of like a break, you know. 13-minute song is a break. So I have not heard anything from Roy Harper. I do not know anything about him. As a matter of fact, the only thing that I can say that I've heard is his singing for Pink Floyd, "Have a Cigar." That is literally the only thing I've heard of him, which that's a classic song. So I have pretty high expectations, but otherwise I don't know anything about his music or his background, what he does. However, before we get into the song, I did happen to scroll and look at the personnel on this. 3 names that stood out. That would be on the drums and percussion, none other than Bill Bruford. The expectations, right? They were already here. Okay. David Gilmour. John Paul Jones. Now my expectations, they're up there. Let us listen to The Game. Hope that you're all having a great day. Thank you so much for being here. Hope that you enjoy the music. Let's go. There's nothing else to say. Let's just do it.
Before feel Oh, but how many times have we written these lines and delivered these signs and not made it happen? Walking the tightrope of talking our head off, losing the rhythm, idealizing, all criticizing, and not realizing that we've changed and left, and we've gone. And said to believe in the things we believe in, but time has a way and we fly. The next stage is born and the old hands are gone, and I'm in the wake of night. No point in passing, bad reason, good guessing. No time for messing, much more than can flourish with love. And right now, my darling, I'm lying here dreaming of feeling the whole daylight between us. So wherever you are, whenever I'm there, is someplace we're gonna be. Can we ride heartedly, stand in this light and see what might turn out to be crazy enough to be we? When we've had a past sad enough to last for some time into the future. These storms have torn true lovers alone, and the past is almost a failure. Conscience is burning, the program turned, computing the social behavior. But Yoke revolves the foundation, bolts and cries for yet another
There were 10 seconds of silence, so I didn't know if there was something else coming. Okay, let's talk a little bit, okay? Now we're going to talk a little bit, but let's talk about a little bit. Let me know your thoughts on the song, okay? You guys are probably much more familiar with Roy Harper than I am. So, immediately, the one thing that stands out to me and actually really impresses me is, in particular, Roy's singing. We're going to talk about the music, the instrumentation. We're going to talk about that. But his singing throughout this track, I was very impressed by. And I actually thought it was very incredible. Because throughout the song moves from different, I don't want to say genres because that's not quite what I mean. But it does move from different feelings. From the hard rock kind of like riff that you get that is very Zeppelin into the more ethereal parts, the more atmospheric moments, which is very Pink Floyd-ish. Roy Harper delivers in each section, in each aspect of that. He can cry out and easily match something a little harder, something a little heavier. But he's no slouch when it comes to atmospherics and space. And I found that I was drawn to his voice and I was really captivated by him no matter what he was doing. He was always like the star. And when you're playing and you have Bill Bruford, David Gilmour, and John Paul Jones playing in this track, it's going to be hard to be the star. You know what I mean? Like, it's going to be hard to have the spotlight on you. But I felt like he did a great job. He maintained control, and I was always very focused on him. Not only because of his performance, but because of the lyrics. The songwriting in this particular song, I thought was so strong. Filled with so much meaning. You could sit here and really get into the lyrics. I feel like they're very relatable, which is something that I think a lot of people look for in lyrics, is something in there to relate to. You know, and that goes for really a lot of music. But man, I think the writing here is very strong. I don't know if that's an underrated aspect or not. I don't know how Roy Harper is usually looked at in a writing place, but I think that the writing here was really, really nice. And one thing I do want to move away from talking about Roy Harper for a moment, I do want to talk about the other members, is that you can hear a little bit of each of the band members' respective bands in here without overbearing or to the point that Roy Harper himself loses himself in the music. So, for example, the riff was very Led Zeppelin to me. The guitar playing from Gilmour is very Pink Floydish. Naturally, you're going to have band members from other places. They're going to bring a part of that band with them. That's just how it works. But while it is a direct influence in the music, it doesn't take it over. To the point that it's like, oh, well, this just sounds like Pink Floyd. Oh, well, this just sounds like Led Zeppelin. No, even though this is the only and first song that I've heard from Roy Harper, I could kind of come away with this and say, no, this sounds distinctly Roy Harper. Now, naturally, I would have to hear more from him to get a more well-rounded opinion. But just because of how focused I was on him as a singer, I could at least feel that. And because of the writing. He had power over his song, over this one. And I think that the whole thing moved very well. It didn't feel like a 13-minute song. I mention this every once in a while, but if you're going to make a song, no matter its length, but especially if you do make a longer song, it has to justify the length. It could be 10 minutes of boring and 3 minutes of good stuff just filled, or you could just make a 3-minute really good song. I feel like each of the 13 minutes and 41 seconds of this particular song was worth it. It meant something. Nothing was filler. Now, if I can just make one last band comparison for a brief moment, as they were coming out of the atmospherics of the middle section, I really love the folkiness here, by the way. Don't you feel like you're set adrift on, waves listening to this? He really does maneuver very well between rock and folk and wherever else. But I do want to come back to this part here. As it builds up. Okay, let me know what you guys think. Don't laugh at me. But when it got to that section and forward, it reminded me a lot of Rush. I don't know if it was the movement of the bass, the way that the space was built right before it pops into that little jam. There's a certain quirkiness to it. I don't mean in a bad way. That's just the only word I can think of right now. But there's a certain quirkiness to it that I feel like Rush has. Maybe not a quirkiness, but a certain personality. A certain character to their music. Right? And you even hear possibly some sort of synth pads. I don't think it's a xylophone exactly, but something making that kind of sound. That could be Bruford doing that. I don't see here on the personnel anyone who's doing anything that stands out as that particular sound. It could be some of the additional personnel on here, such as Steve Broughton. I'm not sure who's doing it. But I like that. It just adds a little character to the song, and it fits very nicely lyrically with what's happening at that particular section. So, for example, let's just briefly kind of talk about the lyrics. So, as far as I can tell, the game that he's talking about is really the game of life. And not even necessarily life and death, but being alive and living. Okay? So he starts, there's an owl in the valley fixing his prey. He's not counting the tally. It's down to what comes up before the day. An owl isn't worried about how many prey or whatever he's eating, how many rabbits or mice, whatever owls eat, that he's catching. He's just saying, okay, well, if I'll catch what I catch before the day starts, The trees in the orchard were taken from a narrow view of time, where the minds of the tortured perpetuated patron saints of crime, O civilization. I would just imagine that, I don't know, the trees were... Actually, okay, I don't know that one. But let me keep going. I can fit into your puzzle, but it's hardly ever a hold. I'll tell you the trouble. The habits I've got are more than 10,000 years old, and we cannot sell our souls to learning morals. Those are such interesting lines that I think immediately set you up to be drawn into the story of this song. Trying to fit into a puzzle, the puzzle of life, trying to fit and find your place. And he says, for himself, it's hardly ever a hold. He can fit for a little bit, but he never quite fits. You know, it doesn't hold. Then he says he has habits that are more than 10,000 years old, and people are trying to apply morals and stuff to it. That could be applied to so many different things. You know, humans are just instinctively towards certain things, or there's certain things that are ingrained in us that's just being human. You know? So what happens perhaps when society, when morals and different directions try to change us from that nature, from our nature? He says, Big Brother is no place for us to slide. We cannot live by numbers or on laurels, and hardly on how far from death we hide. I like that. Big Brother is no place for us to slide. We don't want to slide to that point of oversight. And it's not a case of rampant paranoia, but just an age I'd love to see unborn. Not that I'd be missing playing Goya. More like I feel awkward passing on. Civilization, down to my children without a question. So he doesn't want to pass on what he thinks is perhaps wrong about civilization to his children. He doesn't want them to grow up perhaps with the same morals and pressures that society is kind of like forced on people. Something like that, you know? And then he kind of talks about, you know, prophets of freedom, battery farming brains for narrow minds, like mind washing or brainwashing, not mind washing, have decided, yes, they decided that meaning is far beyond the lives they left behind. And 2/3 the population is dying on scraps in shadow lengthening of time, while propaganda spreads the same old theme. You is me, and we can change the game. And then he says BS right after. I think that is hilarious. Like, they're farming minds, but at the same time spreading propaganda with the saying, basically, you is me, and we can change the game. And he says BS right after, like, no, you can't change the game. You guys have rigged the game since the very beginning. I'm not going to go too much further just yet into the lyrics. I just wanted to get like a little sample, but rest assured, the lyrics are incredibly, incredibly strong and thought-provoking, I think. But let's get back into the music briefly, just talk about a few moments. Doesn't his voice carry a certain direction in the music? For example, in this part, he kind of like, he adds a little spice into some of his words, some of the way he ends certain lines, which I thought was very reminiscent of maybe like rockers that are taking center stage, you know, maybe more mainstream, and like it's more about them. And I mean that in a good way. Like he's portraying perhaps the nature of that in the way he sings. But if you skip ahead a little bit, you start to get little echoes of what is to come. I like how he comes back and relinquishes his anger back into thought. Self-reflection, right? And then back into the angry tones, especially led by the guitar. But it's really halfway through. This is a thing of beauty. And that's Gilmore. But see how there's shades of other bands in the music, and yet it feels like it's Roy Harper? That's a testament to strong songwriting. That's a solo. Maybe not a ton of flashy playing, maybe not a ton of notes, but it feels right, and it feels good, and it fits with the mood. Let's come back to the lyrics briefly. Oh, but how many times have we seen, or have we written these lines, and delivered these signs and not made it happen? How many times have we said these things, and history just repeats itself, or no one does anything about it? Losing the rhythm, idealizing and all criticizing, and not realizing that we've changed and left and we've gone. Then he talks about generations and how one generation basically dies and the new generation's there and they hope that they change. But like, it's just really interesting lyrically. You know, he says the next age is born and the old hands are gone and done in the wink of an eye. No point in passing bad reason, good guessing. No time for massing much more than can flourish with love. Amass love during your lifetime. Don't worry about things and stuff. Like, you gotta have things and stuff, but there's no worry about that. You know? And then the tone switches. Then it switches from that, and the next line totally changes everything. He says, as of right now, my darling. See, now it's directed kind of differently. I'm lying here dreaming of feeling. No daylight between us. So wherever you are and wherever or whenever I'm there, is someplace we've got to be ours. Can we right-heartedly stand in this light and see what might turn out to be crazy enough to be we? Are we strong enough to be who we are and be what we are in the light together? When we've had a past sad enough to last for some time into the future, these storms have torn and true love is alone, and the past is almost a failure. Consciences burn in the program turn computing the social behavior, but yoke revolts, the foundation bolts and cries for yet another savior. I'm sorry, but these lyrics are great. these are some of the best lyrics I've read recently. And then the very ending, I don't want to, like I said, I didn't want to go through every single line because there's a lot in here. But some of the ending parts, he's talking about this guy who's pacing up and down his cell, who says, I'm a sponsor of a hell, not hell, but a hell. Maybe it's his own personal hell. He says, possession is a clue, but not the game. So please leave this world as clean as it came, which repeats in the ending of the song. Possession is a clue, but it's not the game. So the question, like I said, is what is the game? I think that it's about living and not just being alive. But, I don't know exactly what it is. Or maybe the possession, which is a clue, is possessing love and not possessing physical things. Maybe, I don't know. Anyways, I don't know a lot about Roy Harper, like I said, so I would like to know, is this indicative of his material and what he writes? Or is this kind of like a completely one-off sound that he has? Or is this like, does he always put out progressive stuff or longer songs like this? I don't know. So I'll let you guys fill me in. You can also definitely let me know what you guys thought of the lyrics. I would really like to know that. Of course, the song as well, but I just feel like the lyrics are really, really good. So I would love to hear your thoughts, your interpretations. What did you get out of it? Let me know. You can also follow me on Twitter, support the channel on Patreon, all of that. I hope that you have a lovely day. As always, thank you for spending a few minutes of your day with me, or your night. Whatever time it is, wherever you are, thank you for spending it with me, and I'll talk to you tomorrow. Bye. Why did I say that like, I'll talk to you tomorrow? I'll talk to you tomorrow. Bye.